All right, we are live and bringing you Graders Notes tonight. So, we have picked a doozy of a book for this week. We are going to see what kind of opinions come out of this one. I think man, oh man. Anyways, we'll get into it during the show when we get everybody going on here. I want to introduce the other guys that are going to join me tonight. Of course, one of the original and still one of the best in the business, and that would be Mr. Metarog from Mississippi. Oh, there he is.
We're all here.
Is that everybody?
Hey. Yeah, Dave just cuts to the chase. Forget about
that's right.
Everybody here.
Metarog lording it all over us.
Yeah. How you doing, guys? Great to be here as always, man. And this is a surprise pick, I thought, from the Canadian curmudgeon himself. Very surprised about this pick.
What was so surprising that I would even pick this?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like kind of like out of left field to me, but you know,
I never would have pegged you for a foil cover. That's what I never would have guessed.
It was actually a recommendation from a good friend of mine. So he was like, you know what comic you should do? And I was like, oh yeah, okay. Anyway, to my right is the mighty Unruly Simeon. Wayne, why don't you give us a little introduction to yourself and how do you feel about today's book?
I'm pleasantly surprised.
Pleasantly surprised. All right, man, a few words. And down in this bottom corner, we have David, Genome Presents, the master reviewer himself, which is always a big boon to Graders Notes. Sir, how do you feel about today, or what's happening with you today?
Boy, have I got mixed feelings about this book. First off, I had never even heard of this book until you brought it up. So this is kind of like right at the end of my comic collecting days. This is 92, I think it was. So I was right on the tag end of it. So that was cool. I like discovering a new book from that time frame. That was cool. The bad part is my book has not arrived yet. So I'm pretty perturbed about that. In fact, a couple of us here in the panel have had that same problem. So, so I have to go digital. But yeah, I'm excited actually about reviewing this.
We all know that the Postal Service is having its issues lately, so we do our best, right? We do what we can do. But
that we do.
Yeah.
And thank you, postal workers, by the way, if there's anyone out there watching, for working straight through this time.
Yeah, we're not blaming you. You know, you guys do a great job, but it's I'm waiting 2-3 weeks for packages. So
I'm just saying, things are a little unusual all around for everybody, so stuff is taking longer. I was lucky enough that this was not too far away, so even I could have driven there in 6 hours, but it took over a week to get it to even come here. So Canada Post is not they got it to me, but it's not. I don't think it's a win really. It takes a week to drive it over here. Anyway, this is our book. It's from 1993. Let me just enlarge myself here. From 1993, written by Walter Koenig. Chekhov himself took a stab at writing comic books here in 1993, and Malibu being the great comic book source that they were, the powerhouse of publishers of the 90s, is picked up on, snapped up Walter Koenig and got him to do this. Ooh, they even invested, as you could see, in the fabulous foil cover, shiny and new. So anyways, Graders Notes, we're going to go over it. I am going to let somebody else start tonight, though. Eeny, meeny, miny, Wayne. Wayne, brother, you go for the cover. I'll see if I can get just the two of us. No, that's hard to do.
Breaking up is hard to do.
Well, like the three of us, I've got this bad boy on digital, and the cover is I've never heard of these artists before. I mean, they might be incredibly prolific, but it slipped past me. The cover, it's the cover is probably going to be my lowest grade of the book this evening. It's not that exciting. It shows the main character, It's adequately drawn. The trade dress is like, it looks like what your stoner girlfriend in junior high would doodle on a notebook, right down to the colors. But it introduces the character. I kind of dig the black or the trench coat, leather, whatever it is he's wearing. I can dig that. But it's a character that came out of left field, I'm sure, at the time. It should do more to set up what's going on with maybe not this particular story, but with the character itself. Man, I'm just this will be the first serviceable of the evening. I'll give it a 2.5.
2.5. That's a pretty good score for this particular book, I think. We're losing guys again. Let's jump down and we'll go with the favorite of the group, and that'll be Mr. Medarog. Sir, how do you feel about the book?
I'm honored that you think so, because I think you, my friend, are the favorite here. But anyway,
no way, the chat loves you.
Well, I love this community, but we all do. I think Wayne, did a pretty good job. I mean, listen, I am not a big proponent of these foil covers and a lot of like hyperbole that's on the cover. Look, those two, that first, what does it say? First collector's item, first fabulous issue, and it looks like he's taking a bite out of that orange there that says first fantastic issue. The mouth position is a little odd. What's up with those fingers? I mean, I felt like, like there was something going to be protruding out of the fingernails, the way those fingers are used. They're kind of at weird, flatter angles. And I'm not really sure what that silver that's flowing towards him or away from him, is that part of the monster or something? I'm not going to judge it harshly because I was watching a digital copy and the foil was just wonky, The face looks okay. I mean, the flowing hair, I'm going to talk more about that when it comes to the interior art, but the hair just flows kind of odd. It's a very dark inking there. Like Wayne's saying, it portrays the character, but I needed more, especially for a character I had never heard of. Nobody probably has at this point. And, at the top, it says Walter Koenig writes or whatever, So that's going to go into the concept grade. But just for the cover itself, I don't even think it's serviceable. I think it's just there. Those exploding oranges there are kind of odd. And you're right about that Raver font or whatever it is. It looks like something out of a middle school, dream, that we used to write on the notebooks thinking that we knew what we were doing and we had no idea. So I don't even give it a serviceable, but it's not terrible either. So I give it a 2.
A 2. Fine scores all around for in my opinion. David, sir, Gino.
All righty.
Give us your professional reviewed opinion of this cover.
In my professional, and that usually means broke, opinion, a lot of this book I didn't like on first glance, but some parts of it have grown on me. The cover is my lowest score of this book. I'll say that right now. There's a few things, I don't like about it, obviously. The face is just kind of funky. It's smushed, and it doesn't really do anything. It's just an action pose, and I don't like those, generally speaking, on books. Some are okay, but this one, it's a first issue. He's got to be doing something. I think this whole drawing, though, was made around the idea it's going to have a foil background, so that does change up things a little bit. But here's some things I like. If you get rid of all the freaking word bubbles and all that, and I don't like the trade dress either, but the character actually pops pretty well. He doesn't look flat. Even on the versions that aren't foil, he does seem to come off the cover pretty well. So there's a pretty good command of like perspective on the little things like the folds of his coat. The collar on the trench coat looks good. I like the little gold buckles on his sleeves or down his wrist. I think that's kind of interesting. I'm not sure how useful that is, but it's kind of interesting. He's got those Kirby fingers, man. I think Kirby came back from the dead and started to draw fingers for this guy because that's the first thing I saw when I looked at this picture was, Kirby fingers. But it's kind of a weird design and all that, and it's just a foil cover after all. And I didn't even realize it said that Walter Koenig thing up top until y'all just pointed it out. I didn't see it on the copy I was looking at digitally. So yeah, that's a little bit cheesy. But I gave it a 2, but it's not horrible. There's some things I do like about it. It's kind of uninspired. They need to do more on a first issue other than slap fantastic first issue on there. So give it a 2, a little bit weak. But almost serviceable because there's a couple of good points to it.
All right, fair enough. 2. All right, my turn, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You're the last one.
I'm a little dismayed that you guys are giving this to your lowest score, because this got my highest score on the cover. That's for sure.
I didn't say that. I didn't say this was my lowest score.
The cover. It's okay. It's got some anatomy problems, even though it's just one dude. Like, if you look where that shoulder is coming out, that's kind of coming out of the center of his back almost. Right? Just where his chest has got to be. His shoulder would have to be he'd have to be in this pretty crazy pose. It's okay. I know it's David Day. He did get better. Not great ever, right? Like, he's definitely one of those fill-in artists when like somebody's too swamped and they have to have a guest artist on an issue. They call in the David Day. He's the unruly simian of Marvel Comics. But he has done, he went on to do quite a bit of stuff, Hulk and stuff, and he did get better. He is quite a bit better. I think the inks from his brother, how nice that he picked his brother to help him out. His brother is not a very good inker. He really darkened that up, way too much black, shadowy, thick lines everywhere. Too much the inker trying to put into it. Yeah, there's a little bit of wonkiness to this that I don't like. The treatment, the top thing, I'm not a fan. Right, like it looks like could be some scrolly stuff or something. Yeah, this does look like the kind of comics that me and my buddies used to draw when we were 15. Right? Like, that's the kind of character. That's probably the kind of name I'd come up with for my character when I was 15 as well. Right? So that kind of, yeah,
Rabier.
Man, he'll be Raver, Rabier, yeah, Rabier, because of French.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get you in with all the collector special, not first collectible issue. Right, that's always, somebody will grab that off the rack and then be Anyways, I gave it a 1. I gave it a 1 for the foil, just for being into the foil, because I like the way they kind of got it. Like, it's hard to tell on the camera, but it's kind of gasoline swirly to their foil. You know what I mean, like gasoline in a mud puddle. So it actually, it's one of the nicer kind of foil treatments I've seen. So that got it a 1.
It is fairly not offensive for a foil cover. I will say that.
It is.
Like their use of it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna go foil, go in your number 1, right? Go in 1993. That's always the best.
All right, 1. Starting off with the pretty low scores there.
Yeah, we get some low scores all around. You guys have been looking here at the foil cover, or the cover that I've been holding up. So everybody in the chat, as you know, you're part of the Graders Notes experience. We bring you in. You give us your votes too. We'll take a big census at the end and see where everybody in the chat landed. If you agree with us, if you disagree with us, whatever. It's up to you. Just go ahead and put your scores into the chat now, and we'll count them up. The scores are between 1 to 5, guys. 1 to 5. Awesome.
That's right. No 1.66 is 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5.
Yeah. You can do a half point. You can do a half.
Yeah, but no, people who like to do like these really complex calculations. 4.76.22. No. Let's keep it
17, 128.
I'm pretty sure Roger mentioned it. Actually, one of the things I do like about that cover is I like how they brought those little streamers in front of his body. That helped give it a little bit of depth too.
Yeah, I don't it's all shiny here. I don't know if that's like gray misty kind of thing. Like To me, I thought that was kind of like a mist or something flowing by him.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what that was. I wasn't sure if that was.
It's not really in the book.
There seems to be some monster tendrils or something there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that was like, the sputum or what. I have no idea. But
I like how it weaves in and out with the belt right there, going in between a couple of them. That's kind of a nice touch,
Yeah, but I just needed more than this. It's like, who is this guy? What is happening? I mean, at least give me something I can sink my teeth in. But the figure is okay, but it needed much more than that to me.
Yeah, and green and red trade dress. I'm not sure what those color scheme was all about, but it was
right? I mean, I know, like, green and red and like a tinge of yellow in there. It's like, it's not Christmas colors, right? It's not those Christmas greens or anything.
No, it's like lime green, I want to say, and
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't see the point of the foil. I mean, did they just put it on there so that future archaeologists could date it to the early 90s?
It's recognizable.
It's Malibu, it's 90s unruly. So the first issue automatically is going to be foil, it's going to be some kind of die cut, it's going to be a gatefold. Some gimmick is always around when it comes to those things in the 90s. Just what it was.
And my cat chases the reflection around. It's good.
Oh, that's an added bonus. Dave, you want me to shout out this chat, or you want to do it before?
Yeah, man, I'm so remiss here. How can I not shout out the chat, brother? Could you do it for me? You're the best at this.
Absolutely, I'll be my pleasure. Well, we'll get into the grades in a second, but let's see who's in here. I know that there's a couple of our stalwarts here, but we got Goat99 coming by. Bill Comic Magazine, again, he told me earlier when he left a comment in my video, he was coming here. A new one for me, Eddie's Mullet. I love the name, by the way.
Eddie Brock, is that what? He used to have a mighty mullet back in the late 80s, early 90s.
We got Steven Brock, again, a great chat superstar here. Joe 47771, otherwise known as Joe Bag of Sevens, is in here. Of course, we have the unruly Stimmy in here earlier. We have Super Russ 9000, who just had a birthday. Happy belated birthday again, buddy. Also a big supporter of the channel. And we also have James Gallegos, my buddy from New Mexico. And a couple more right at the beginning here, but I think, no, I'm wrong. I think that's everybody. So thanks for joining us, guys. We are really, really honored that you are here with us to support Dave and his pick of Raver #1.
Let's see if I can find a mullet. It's in one of these, I think.
Yeah, thanks, Metarog. I appreciate you chatting up the chat. We got a great chat in here. Thanks for everybody for coming and joining us, for sure. So I think we've got enough chat scores in now that we can do add them up.
All right.
Let's see. I did it, and it's a 2 right now. Yep.
It's a 2. Okay, I was going to say, in my head, it really sounded like it looked like a 2 to me.
We have Ross coming in to skew downward.
Oh, you vey. All right, give me a second here. Thanks a lot, Russ. Always making me work. Let's see. 2 plus 2.
We're just messing with you, Russ. We're just messing with you. We love it when people participate, regardless of it's a little late or not. Big deal. I got nowhere else to go.
Yeah, no one's asking.
So what is it? 1.5 or 2?
Let me go divide it. 1, 2, 3, 6. 2. It's like down to 1.9. So back to 2 again.
Back to 2. Okay.
2. Okay.
All right. 2
seems pretty generous to me.
Well,
we've seen better covers than this.
Oh yeah, certainly.
I lied. Eddie doesn't have the mullet in this. Eric Larson didn't want to draw him with the mullet, apparently.
Oh,
he just has his crew cut. He has his crew cut here, but I remember him having a mullet.
He did have a mullet.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to our next category, right? So we're gonna go with. Let's stay on the art. The art was better than. Well, in my opinion. We'll see. So we'll roll it over to you first, Metarog. And
okay.
how do you feel about? Wait, did I start with you last time?
No, you started with Unruly.
Yeah. Okay, you're next.
Okay.
Yeah, how did you feel about how the interior art? How did David Day and his little bro manage on the interior art of this book?
Well, I must say that I always talk about art appropriateness when it comes to comics. And for a comic like this, it seemed that some of the artistic choices were a little bit odd for me, right? I think you mentioned it, Dave. The inking here is very heavy-handed. It seems, I don't know, Dave, if you can show a few pages while I'm talking here, but
yeah, hang on.
Even the seams in the day. Now I understand, and when it comes to the story, I'm going to talk about this, right? When it comes to the day scenes, some of them have shadows that are perplexing to me because it just seems like things are way too dark considering they're in direct sunlight. And it could be like the frames of houses, it could be the faces, it could be the vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of it is just inked so heavily that it seems like it's in shadow. Okay, yeah, like look at that baseball player. They're playing out in the middle of in the field, and yet it's very heavy shadows, just even on the interior sleeve, and it just repeats itself over and over and over. So if this was the penciler and his brother as the inker, you would think the brother would have, hey, take it easy a little bit here. Now, I think the monsters in this particular comic are the best of the art. Both that kind of muck man-thing kind of monster and the flying green dragon. And I like how they keep the color scheme so you know who is who. So the Raver is always the blue and the red, and the Dr. Zinn or whatever is also always the green guy. So I like that they had that little dynamic so that you can keep those straight. All right. And yeah, you see that there. They're even whether they become a transformer or a dragon, or I think they're like saber-tooth tigers. That was good. So you can keep track of who's who. Okay, there you go. Right. So the monsters are well done, but everything else, boy, it seems like just it's the facial expressions are odd. Now I understand that the story sort of lends itself to this sort of body of the invasion of the body snatchers, like no emotive facial features, but even the ones that are supposed to be are just kind of there, and the anatomy is okay for the most part, right? But again, the panel layouts are wonky and odd, very dark where it shouldn't be. The story does not flow well at all. There's like these edit cuts that are abrupt, and then you have to sort of figure out and imagine what is coming up next. Look at the glasses there. The eyes are all in the interior. The glasses are on the outside. Again, the monsters I liked. I think they were really well done, good scope and everything else. But the storytelling art here, I don't like it. It doesn't flow well at all. Now the story itself is not high art itself, but the way that the story it flows into the art, there's a lot of choppiness when it comes to the transitions. Sometimes the guy is in a schoolhouse and then he's in another world, and how did that happen? There's just one little splash and that's it. I'd like something that had a little more of a story-based art element, so that transitions into the next part of the plot. So again, not terrible, but as far as story art goes, it's really, really not that good. Way too dark in many places. Good facial expressions in some places, others a little wonky. I can't give this even a serviceable, guys. I'm going back to what I gave it for the cover, dos. And only because those monsters were so well done that I was really like astonished how well they were. I wanted like posters of those things, but everything else, not so good.
Okay, that's an opinion.
Yes, it is.
Right. Good review, I guess. We'll have to see how others feel about it. Let's go to Gino.
Yeah.
Gino, you like bad stuff. I'm sure you're going to give this the full 5 it deserves.
It's a lock, baby.
It's a lock here.
Just on a non. Go ahead.
You're also a super 90s child. So
I have a series called The Copper Mine. So that's when I was collecting the hardest. But
give us their opinion here, bud.
All right. Just a point of fact. If another man looks at you and says, that's an opinion, get your guard ready because you're about to throw down, man. Those are fighting words. You may not know they're coming, but it's coming. So the art is a lot like the cover for me. There's promise here. It's mostly failure, but there's a few good things. Roger already brought it up. As soon as I saw the first pterodactyl monster, dragon, whatever that thing was, I thought Khazar or something, man. We're in the Savage Lands. It looked a lot like Sauron or something, So it was really well done. And it's gave him kind of a wrinkly appearance. And it wasn't like the McFarlane, I'm going to add squiggle lines here to make it look like it's really, intricate. It was actually, I think it did well. It gave him folds on the skin and all that. And he looked very crinkly and monstery. So it was well done. Everything else, though, was pretty weak. There's a couple cool perspective shots, side profile shots. I don't think Dave's such a big fan of those, but there's a couple of decent ones of those in there. There's a lot of faraway panels. I think he was masking some things in here. You look behind me here, you can see a lot of it right here. Lots of stuff like that. It's nothing too descriptive, so I think it was the artist really either being in a hurry or wasn't too sure of himself on the close-up stuff. So there's that's noticed. There was some kind of cool stuff. I like the fun he was having with the glasses and all that on some of the nerdier characters and all that. Made them uber nerds instead of just your standard guys. The big bad guy, even though he could turn into powerful things, he was just a little stocky Hunchback of Notre Dame looking guy, right? He wasn't some big intimidating guy. I can dig that. Oh, but I just can't get over Raver's design. It just doesn't work, man. It just screams costume, it doesn't even he's walking around like a normal everyday guy and he's wearing that, and it's just strange. There's some decent stuff to be had here, not a whole lot in the realm of backgrounds either, to be honest with you. But we'll leave some meat for the for the other reviewers here. So some things were okay. It's not really my cup of tea for the most part, but it was competent. I'm going to put that below serviceable. It's a competent book. Some good monsters and a few decent actions, scenes. What little you get, I'm going to give it a 2. That might be a little bit generous, but some things I did like here. I can definitely see where this man has promised to go. He can get better with time. So, and maybe with more actual time on deadline. So I give it a 2. That's not spectacular, but there's definitely some weakness to be had.
So
nice.
All right. It's not my turn yet.
Yeah.
Oh yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is.
You can't have Wayne go. You can't go twice last.
That's too
easy.
Piper,
baby. Pay the piper.
Pay the piper. Oh, I've been chomping to get this piper off my chest. Interior art, Blue Urns. Right there, oh, the darkness. Bedrock, you hit it on the hammer. Pages like this, you cannot see. It looks black. You cannot you're wait a minute. Well, that's a guy. That pterodactyl guy is, it's well done. He did it. You could tell that Dave really liked to, or is it David or Dale or Dan? Dan, sorry, Dan. Andy, he liked drawing these monsters. He put a lot of effort into that. I think he liked drawing those a lot more than he liked drawing Raver. That's for sure. These robots are great, right? He's got that he's got a good robot style. But there's so
that
much
cat right there. Ooh.
Yeah, that cat. so much dark, and then these wonky her anatomy is fuck up. Sorry, I should swear words, but that's just weird. And then every panel with a person, it's they're right up in the front of the panel. Every one of them, there's no backgrounds because there's no room for any backgrounds. It's all straight up in the front, everything. Maybe that's why they just blacked out everything else. Like everything is just pushed forward and then flattened. It all looks like a painting or like not even a painting. Like it's like a photocopy of something. It's just flat, flat, flat everywhere. Very, very little. Like the cover has way more depth to it than any of this rest of this book. Even scenes like this, where it's supposed to be like him talking to a big, long room full of people, everybody feels like they're 3 feet away from that speaker, right? He's got everybody pushed together all the time, right up in front, and even these kids, all these kids in this whole big, long, supposedly classroom, all feel like you're just like they're going to run over each other. They're so tight together. Darkness. Sometimes I think he's trying to copy Bernie Wrightson. Other times I think he's trying to copy Kirby. He definitely tries to copy Bernie Wrightson in a lot of different little places. You can tell with that. The way the spittle in the mouth is and stuff. And just, I don't know. Kids with the big glasses, that shocked big glasses look. That was a Wrightson staple, man. He always had that kid in his comic books. Yeah, and like you said, visually storytelling, it's confusing. You're just jumping. You're jumping you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Why was I looking at a pirate? Now I'm looking at a pterodactyl. Now I'm looking at a bunch of people having fun. Now I'm looking at a baseball player. Now I'm looking, what's going on in this book, right? And we'll get to the story. The story doesn't help that very much. I found it confusing. I found the parts of the book that he's trying that do kind of are successful, like you said, the monster stuff, are very Kirby-esque. They're very ripped off from Kirby. Yeah, didn't like it. Very flat. Again, I swear it's like a trip to the past, man. When my buddy Hunter and I would sit in his basement, play D&D, and draw comic books. And this is what we draw, right? Like we draw this fucking thing. I should have got a hold of Malibu in 1993. I could have been, published. Right? We came up with better panels than this a lot of the times. Anyway, so yeah, I tied the interior with the cover and gave it a 1. And again, just because there was just a couple little things that were well done, but even the things that were well done, I felt were ripped off. Right, like they were only well done because he was kind of copying someone who was good, that kind of thing. So I gave it a 1. Yeah, a kind of a grudging one, but I had some anatomy problems, like lots of anatomy problems. Look at him standing there. He just looks so weird. Like, what's he doing? Just totally whack. Anyway. Well, there's another kid with big glasses. I didn't even notice that kid with big glasses. Yep. Like, he's got the kind of trope going throughout this thing, right?
Yep.
But yeah, so I gave it a 1. Good effort, E for effort, but yeah, not so great.
Goat99 is impressed with your Return of the Jedi sheets back there.
Original. Bought when I was a kid. Still have it.
Wow. Impressive.
I know. I don't want to put it through the wash anymore. It's like there's some spots that are it's coming apart. But my cat loves it. That's like her favorite thing in the whole world. So I guess it's hers now. Unruly, I'm not forgetting about you, brother. You have got to give us your opinion. Come on. You've been collecting comics for a long time. Right? You've been involved with comics. You like comics, you read comics, you know comics. Tell us your opinion.
I have seen in 50 years of reading comics a lot of bad art. And this isn't great, but it's far from the worst. I really wasn't expecting much. I quit buying floppies and reading new stuff in like 89, 90. In the 90s, if I heard good, I still went in the comic shop and bought trades. I was scouring the trade racks, and I'd buy wall books. So if somebody told me, hey, this series is good, you need to read it. That's how I discovered Preacher and Fables and blah, blah, blah. Maybe not Fables. Wasn't that the 2000s? But whatever. This art isn't horrible. That right there, that full page spread that he probably spent 70% of his time drawing the issue on, is worth the price of admission right there. Let me see. There's also my freaking computer's wonky. Obligatory girl in lingerie panel, which is semi-competently done. I just when I'm looking at art, I need to get on my game more to be on a par with you guys. I don't look at it that critically because I enjoyed the story, and yes, there was panels that fucking flowed and made not into each other very well. It didn't. There was jump cuts. His anatomy was a little off. It was definitely too dark. It was not the inking job didn't rise to the level of competent, which is probably the worst thing I can say to somebody is that you are not competent, because competent is one of my favorite praise words. But overall, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the comic. I liked the art, and I'm going to go against all of y'all and give it a 3.
Nice.
All right, someone boot him from the panel, please.
3.
Oh man.
3.
Hey, we've had some diverse opinions here before, but that one's not that bad. 1 point off. Come on. Yeah.
I don't know. Who invited this guy?
Hey, and throw in a little cheesecake in there. That Unruly pointed out. Throw a little cheesecake in there to sort of take your mind off the darkness. Yeah, but the face of the girl is a little odd to me. So
everything about her is a little odd. She's got this weird pose.
Well, she is a lady to be demonstrated there. So
I suppose.
I thought you were gonna say "Lady of the Evening" there for a second. There,
I was going
so classy.
I was going to say too. All right, but you guys, the chat, how do you feel? You were seeing a few of these flips through here. How do you feel about the interior art of this book? Was it a yay? Was it an A? Was it typical 90s? Was it below your expectations? Please give us your grades in the chat now.
Oh, well, we've been graced with a few more people here, including our comrade Kenny Comet Head 84. Dane Mayers is in here, as is Brian Criswell, who says that he has read this book. So I'm interested to see what he would think about this.
Sorry about your luck, Chris.
Hey, could you turn to the panel where the main bad guy and Raver are talking back and forth? What did you think about that one? It's the really tall panel. Probably
the discussion of safety versus liberty.
I didn't like it at first, but it's kind of growing on me. I liked how they did that. What do you guys think about that?
You'll see that in the story element.
Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting choice artistically.
Yeah, interesting. It's like they just figured out a way to step everything forward with word bubbles.
Well, Unruly, Kenny says that he trusts you above all of us, so he gave it a 3.
All right.
Your faith might be a little misplaced this evening, sir.
Ay. What's going on here? Oh man, we got a lot of grades come in. Everybody.
Yeah, we got some grades coming in. Let's give him another half a minute there. You mentioned it, Gino, but I left a little meat on the bone. But those backgrounds, some of them had like these Ditko-esque, like inverted squares and things, and you had the same the same scene with different colors. I'm thinking, is there symbolism here? I didn't get it, if there was, And like Dave said, I see Wrightson, I see Kirby, I see Ditko. It's like, what mishmash can you make to sort of say, are these homages or are these just the way that I've been, inspired by these guys? I don't know. It was a very odd and weird experience when I read this comic book.
Odd and weird. That's sums it up. in a sort of way. Odd and weird. All right. I think we've had it.
All right. You ready there, my friend Gino?
Yep. Already tabulated.
Oh, you did? Oh, I don't even have
I just read through. Come out to be a 2.
2? All right.
So we're both 2 for 2 tonight. Roger and I are running neck and neck.
Oh, boy. Now the fun really begins.
Yeah. Who goes first this time? That would be Gino, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Gino, let's talk about the story. You get first shot at this, brother. Man, tell us what you think of our freaking Raver story. 1993 goodness.
Okay, Mr. Koenig is an interesting fellow. I don't know if you've ever watched any of his interviews, but he's very intelligent man, very well spoken, and very cerebral. And some of that, I think, gets lost in this translation, even though there's a high concept here. So the story, let me get right out to it. The first half of this book, I hated it. I was like, I don't get it. What's going on here? Who is this person? What is he doing? What is this book even about? I don't like it. At the end, I started to get interested in it, to the point where I would probably want to read another issue just to figure out what is this deal with Raver, what is going on, because there seems to be an interesting concept going on here. I won't say it all because 3 more people got to talk, but it's not well written as a comic book. This is more written like a screenplay, and it kind of shows, I think, throughout. But there's some interesting thing here to be had, but the only interesting about it is the character and what is his power set, and why doesn't he know what his own power set is. It appears to be tied in some way to whatever reality he's in. We don't really find that out, but I thought it was kind of an interesting quirk. You got a hero who doesn't know what his power set's going to be from one jump to the next. Interesting. And then he's got some sort of symbiotic power sharing with the main bad guy in this story. Thought that was kind of cool too. Cool idea. So they had a pretty funny kind of opening when he was like trying to figure out what his power even was. It's just like, okay, he's running somewhere and he's running out of breath. He's like, okay, I don't have super speed, obviously. And then he gets like knocked over by a gust of wind or something. He's like, well, I'm not super strong. So I thought that was kind of cute and funny. But the dialogue is pretty wooden and stiff, and the story doesn't really resolve anything, and you don't really know what's going on. You know less about what's going on afterwards. I don't mind that so much because sometimes it makes you want to read more, and I am interested in the character a little bit, but there's no like personality to this guy. He's just a cardboard cutout waiting for you to fill in what he's supposed to be. So kind of weak. It's a weird dichotomy throughout this book. I'm going to give this a 2.5 though. I'm going to give it serviceable just because at the end I was kind of interested to learn about what is going on with this character. Is he being controlled by other entities, which is how it looks like it is? So is he like an avatar? But he's an avatar that changes depending where he's at. I don't know. It's a book of extremes. It's extremely boring and confusing on some spots, and then there's this wee hint of curiosity about what's going on with this character. So I'm gonna give it a 2.5 serviceable just because I do want to learn a little bit more about this character, but everything else was just bland, uninteresting, almost incomprehensible. So 2.5 just for the mystery quotient, I guess.
2.5. Man. Aliens versus Predator all over again. All the Flash.
Oh, man.
All right, I'm going to hit this friggin' story up. Walter Koenig. What the F is this? I read this thing and I was like, what happened? What the fuck is going on in this book? Who the hell is this guy? Who's this guy? What are they doing? He doesn't know what his powers are? Ugh. Okay, no. Maybe I missed some stuff. Let me read it again. Nope. Still have no idea what is going on in this book. There's lots of boring parts. He's jumping around lots. He's like, oh, here I am with the ice cream man. Here I am on a boat. Here I am getting hit in the head. Here I am in a science lab. Oh, here I am talking to a scientist. Here I am as a monster. Here I am as a robot. Here I am as a cat. Here I am as another big cat. Oh, now I'm a little kid. This book makes absolutely no sense. And Dave, you took from it that like he doesn't know what his powers are going to be from one place to the next. I took it as he doesn't know what his powers are at all. He doesn't even know what's going on. I don't know why this stuff is just flipping around. Like, why is he in a medieval castle? Why is he suddenly a robot? Why they don't explain that in any way, shape, or form. They don't leave, like, it just blips. The dialogue is terrible. It's so wooden, and so the characters don't speak like real people. This guy's like flipping from one place to the next, takes it on stride, whatever. He's not even the slightest bit worried about it. That's dumb. There's giant monsters. He thinks he's dreaming. Now he's having ice cream. Now he's on a boat. Now he's in a hall. Now he's in space. It's like, what is going on? Walter, you made no sense whatsoever in this book. This is the most, I can't say it's a convoluted story. It's not complicated in any way. It's the most straightforward, make no sense. What the heck is going on in this book? You'd have to read number 2 in hopes that you could maybe have a little bit of a slight understanding. It didn't hold my interest in any way. If you're not even going to try, in my words, it's just like, it's like, if you're watching a movie late at night on TV and you're kind of drifting in and out of sleep and you're like, oh, what happened? Why has the scene changed? And then you wake up and you're like, okay, now this story's not making sense. How long have I been asleep? 20 minutes? 10 minutes? Like, like it's that. I'm like, but I'm reading the whole thing through. You don't know who this doctor guy is. It's fine to not know who your villain is, but I mean, they don't tell you why he's Raver. They have all these little voices in the background. They don't talk. They say he's going to save humanity and he'll put everything right. Who are they? Why is he? And what is he putting right? None of it's explained. Who he is explained. What he's doing isn't explained. Where he's going isn't explained. What his powers aren't explained. What his name means isn't explained. Who all of his other guys aren't explained. This comic book made not a lick of sense to me in any way from start to finish. I was like, somebody explain what the F is going on here. Like, who greenlit this? They greenlit it because of that name, Walter Koenig. That's why they greenlit this. Oh, we could sell it by saying Chekhov wrote it, right? And Walter Koenig, or however you want to pronounce the last name, he's a good actor. He is a very smart man, but really not. Comic book writing is different, right? You can't just jump in and be like, I'm a good writer. I can do it, right? It takes practice. It takes an understanding of how to tell a visual story with words in conjunction with pictures. The words and the pictures, a lot of times they don't make sense together either. Like, I don't know why he has to be talking to the scientist in the dark. Oh, is he in a dream? Is he not in a dream? Are we having this? All of a sudden, he's on a ship with a hooker, and then a 10-headed Hydra shows up, and then everybody starts dancing on the dance floor. That's in one panel. That's one page. Then everybody starts making fun of him. Then he's the nerd of the class. Then he's the pterodactyl. Then he eats the captain. Then he turns into himself again, and he's at a high school reunion. That's the kind of story you're looking at. That was 2 pages of the story, and it goes on like that over and over again. I can't even give it a grade. I give it a WTF. Like, this was possibly the worst comic book I've read.
Oh man!
Like, for real. A WTF is what I give it, and it's no wonder that I bought this book for $1.50. Oh, sorry, $1.89 because I paid for the foil cover. Less than half the cover price. That's $1.89 Canadian, by the way. So, like 4 cents US or whatever.
Oh man, Dave.
It is possibly, like, combine this with the art, with the cover and everything. It really is shaping up to be the worst comic book I own or have ever read. I'm so glad I didn't pick this up in the 90s and pay full cover price. I'm so mad. So mad. Anyways, that's my opinion.
Oh man.
I don't know how you guys feel about it. Well, I guess I'm about to find out. Mr. Unruly, sir, 50 years comic book knowledge. Have you ever seen something like this in your career of collecting comic books?
I've read worse.
Oh, man.
I'm at a bit of a loss to give examples at the moment.
Those penthouse stories are kind of weak.
What's going on? This is what's going on. He's an ordinary schmo on apparently our world, but on a distant planet, those who are ultimately responsible for the creation of Raver, the Ho, I'm not making this up, the name of the aliens that control him are Ho, watch and muse. This is another hopeless world he has created. We should have found another, blah, blah, blah. Raver will fix it. Not this time, perhaps. So there's aliens are controlling his jumpings from one reality to another.
Hey, time out 1 second, Wayne. Nowhere in this book does it say anything about that.
It says you were ultimately responsible for the creation of Raver. This is another hopeless world he has created. We should have found another. They're the ones
that they're aliens. It doesn't say that they're aliens controlling his jumps anywhere.
No, but they said we should have found another world.
All right, I'll let you do your review, brother. I'm sorry. I wanted.
So apparently they're the ones sending him there. Now, as far as story goes, that panels that you pointed out, Roger, that was the best part of the story, is when him and the Mad Doctor are arguing.
Mm-hmm.
We're proud of our housing. Your people lack character. Our plumbing is superb. They're disloyal to each other. Sanitation is never a problem. Now, I'm going to pause here and put on my hat of misogyny, and I would have to say that 95% of all mothers on planet Earth would gladly trade liberty and creativity for having enough to eat, no crime, and no war. And I'm going to take off my hat of misogyny. But no, I'm like, I'm going to say I'm exactly like Genome. This interested me enough that I want to see what the hell is going on. Now, the ending was, after he defeats, if you want to call it that, the mad scientist who's ruling the reality he was on, that last page made 0 sense to me whatsoever. The last 2 pages. He comes back to our world, his world, whatever, and everything's okay in the classroom. He walks out of the classroom. He's blocking someone in, and he just walks right by. I'm not understanding that at all. But I do want to read and see some of these other realities he jumps to, and what his powers might be there, and find out a little bit more about the Ho. So I'm going to give this a solid, mind you, 3.0. I have
unbelievable. The trash heap has spoken. Sorry, you remember that old Muppet Show thing, the Fraggles?
Fraggle Rock.
Yeah.
Let the children play. Worries for another day.
Fraggle Rock brought up most of the kids in the late 80s.
Hey, right there.
Good point.
I like some Fraggle Rock. Them dudesers were kind of cool. Oh, sorry, I got to.
Oh boy.
Those are like podling little guys, weren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. Colorful guys there, yeah.
Well, Metarog, sir. I don't know how much meat is left on this bone. But we certainly want to hear your opinion. I mean, you've got a lot of comic book reading under your belt. So I'm sure you've read some stinkers in your days. How does this one compare?
And how? And I will attempt, Unruly, I have a theory as to what those last few panels are about, by the way. So, okay. So let me tell you a little story, right? Back when I was first married, we didn't have a lot of money. Both of us had lost our jobs temporarily there. And so we would buy the cheapest groceries we could, right? And when we were down to just like the last few things, we would combine everything and make a casserole or a mush or something. You know, here's a little bit of chicken. Here's a little bit of ground beef. Here's a little bit of vegetables. Here are some carrots. Here are some, herbs. And we would put all those together, and that would get us through the last couple of days until we had some money to buy groceries. Okay. This story reminds me of those days because it is just a mishmash of irreconcilable and seemingly unassociated story elements that were thrown together and made some kind of mushy salad is the best way that I can describe it. You have elements here of monsters, you have elements here of superheroes, of mystery, of political diatribe, of Twilight Zone-like semi-suspense, and none of it makes, as Dave says, a bit of sense. It is so disjointed that when Genome said that he didn't like the first part of the story, but he kind of got the last part. Well, by the time you read that first part of the story, your brain is already just so confused that you need to be some kind of mental athlete to put it together enough to read that second part of the story. Oh man, let me tell you, I have read some stinkers. I have read some, you know me, I love those small publishers from the 60s and 70s. And some of those were really bad, goofy, incoherent stuff. But this one really takes the cake. It looks like, Koenig, you're right. He's an intelligent man. I've seen him at shows and things like that in the past. I've never talked to him, but I've been around when he's talked. Great guy, friendly guy. But the guy cannot write a comic book to save his life. I'm sorry to say. The story is like, is this another world he goes to? Is this a mindscape? Does he go to the world? Does the world come to him? Who are those like little shadows talking? Are they some cosmic jokesters, or what is the meaning of this exactly? And what causes him to leave into these worlds? Unruly. I think it's if any kind of strong emotion comes against him, he seems to go into this kind of fantasy world to get away from it, right? That's why at the end, when he sees you see the car parked there, and that lady is like, "Is this their car?" And he's like, "No," and he walks away, even though the license plate says Norman, because he wants to avoid a confrontation and not be pushed into some reality that he can't control. But my God, this was one of the worst experiences I've had ever reading comic books. I am just dismayed that something this bad was created, and I'd never heard of it. That's the one part that I'm kind of surprised about. But again, just very disjointed. It does have that little, political repartee there between the Doctor and the Raver, which again is part of the mishmash here. But that is just one little light in a sea of darkness of this story. So I didn't give it a 0 because it did have just a few little hints of goodness here and there. But boy, they were few and far between. I think this is my lowest grade ever, guys. 1.
Oh, 1. Well, it's about time. Because if there was a book that deserved a 1, this is the one right here. I don't know how many people in the chat have been able to get their hands on a book. Hopefully you went and, looked it up and, didn't pay money for it like a sucker like me.
And not even have the book.
You got a bit of a read of the story. You kind of get the gist of it from what we're telling you. So if you feel inclined, please chat. Give us a grade of how you felt the story of this book went.
The one thing that really threw me for a loop was the whole baseball episode. I didn't get that at all.
That was weird. Tear up your baseball card.
What did he have there? Pitching. His superpower was pitching.
His superpower was pitching.
It was so bizarre. It's just, you know,
am I the better pitcher or catcher here?
Yeah,
all kinds of weird undertones going on.
I really wanted to like this. You know what I mean? I went into it saying I'm going to try to like this because I have a bias against those 90s independents, right? So I try to sort of turn the wheels around, say I'm going to give this everything I can give it. I couldn't because I didn't enjoy it. It was so confusing that I got a headache when I read it the second time.
I know, right? It's like it just doesn't make sense.
I think you kind of alluded to this too, Dave. You're like, this seems like it was written by a guy who doesn't really read comic books. You know what I mean? So they don't really know the structure, three-part structure of the comic book itself. And it's just, it read to me more like a script, something that gets worked out in between scenes and all that. That's why everything is so jarring, jumping back and forth. And
like a script that was built out of just like a brainstorm, right? Let's just brainstorm a bunch of ideas. Okay, that's a comic book, right? Like, let's just put it all in there. Let's put it all of it.
Exactly what it sounds like to me. Exactly what it sounds like. Yeah, we got all these good ideas, but the problem is that so many cooks spoil the broth here because you have all these ideas, but none of them are flushed out well enough.
And I mean, even if
look at the credit page. Look at the credit page. Nowhere is there an editor listed. There's an entertainment manager, which I have to assume is Koenig's manager.
Isn't it like the bouncer at the strip club? Yeah.
Yeah.
Rod, that's a great observation about the last page. You're exactly right. I'd forgotten it was emotion in the very beginning that pushed him into this.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting, though. I mean, I don't know why. I thought that was an interesting thing. Either his emotions tinging what universe he's in and his power set changes per universe. It could work really well for an ongoing series because it would never get stale, but you have to have a good backbone to it. And the backbone is not there, you know?
Yeah. Dave, you're a creative guy, and I think you're making up a lot of extra story, putting it in this book just to fill it in your own head, because there's not a lot here that connects anything to anything.
All right, have we asked the chat for their grades?
Let's see here.
If they're still around after those diatribes of ours.
Oh, they like those. Are you kidding?
Oh, okay. I see a few. You see these, Genome?
Yeah, it should be pretty easy.
I think you know where this is going.
Oh, guys, this is such a
0.063. Oh, the jokers, for
sure.
Hey, we need comics like this because. You know, how can you tell the light without the darkness, right?
True. Same rule in painting, right?
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Chat score is a 1.
Chat score is a 1. Well. A little strong score from the chat.
Well, you know, again, it had some good ideas, but they just kept colliding. It's like you got a really fast car, yeah, but if you got another fast car that's hitting it, you're not getting anywhere. And that's what this was, just a train wreck of a comic.
It's a limited series.
Yeah.
There's only one of 3.
Oh, that's it. See, here's another weird thing, too. You get a full cover like that, and you kind of aim at usually a younger demographic, right? And the color palette and all that. And then you write a book that no kid's going to understand. That doesn't make sense either. So who is their target? Are you writing just for adults to make it more of an adult color set and not a foil cover? But if you're not, you got to write it down a little bit for the younger demographic, you know?
Unless you're a Mensa member like Unruly, forget it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, gentlemen, let's move on to the concept of the book. I guess I'm going to start on this one. Concept. So, like right away, reading the cover, like Raver, and I was like, oh, I don't know about this. And then I saw that illustration right at the beginning, and I thought for sure he was going to be like, jump down in front of the enemy with a pair of glow sticks, start jumping around, dun, 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 right? So the DJ would pop up behind him, and that's how. But you know, that would have been something. I could have got behind that. I could have really gotten behind that. This concept of, you know, having your hero not know his powers and then just be kind of strung along in this weird sort of way. I mean, Isn't that kind of the greatest American hero concept where he's just kind of figuring stuff out as he goes? It's not a great concept, right? One thing it did have, I can tell you, this book does not have first issue itis, right? It's not, here's my powers, here's my guy, let's go to the next guy that's going to be on the team, right? Like, here's his powers and here's his stuff. They keep a lot under their hat for the reader, too much though, right? Like they don't tell you enough to draw you into the next book, right? As a concept, I kind, and I'm making some assumptions that he's some sort of messiah kind of guy, and he's being pulled into all these different worlds, and he's got some sort of weird thing in his head that he's got powers, and then he ends up meeting his nemesis who has the same power, and there's going to be some sort of cosmic struggle between good and evil here, right? That's basically the concept I get. Like, there's a guy that doesn't know what's going on that's getting pulled into this world. It's not a bad concept, but it is if you don't explain any of it. Like, I don't know why this guy's bouncing around. Is it the aliens making him bounce around? Is it him that's making him bounce around? Is that his power that's making him bounce around? Like, does he not know that he has powers and that's why he's bouncing? Or is it these aliens that are making him bounce? Or is it the doctor he's fighting against, the evil guy? Is he making him bounce? Or is it the cosmos making him bounce? Like, it's just, the concept is too light. Like, he's like, let's just make a guy that doesn't know what's happening to him. Yeah, but flesh it out. Like, give me something. Give me a little bit of meat. Like, conceptualize something in my head so that I can conceptualize something that's going to happen in the second issue, right? Like, I'll be thinking, oh, they could do this with the story, that with this story. They could be going here or there. I'm interested in finding out what direction this guy's taking. But they have nothing to pull me into that. I don't know which direction they're going. I don't understand the concept of this hero. I gave the whole concept thing a 1, right? So just because, like, I thought it was good that they didn't, like I said, first issue itis and hit us over the head with who this guy is and everything about him, all in the first 3 pages of the book. That was good. So that's where they got their 1. The rest of it, they didn't explain anything, right? Like, there is no concept. It's just a guy being dragged around, and I don't get it. So I gave the concept a 1, and I think I'm being kind of generous. I could have given it a half, but I could have given it the whole WTF. What the hell is the friggin' concept in this book? Period. Right? But I'll give it a 1 because I think I get it. I think he's the cat. Right? I don't know if did he just drop the cat and then he changed realities? Is it his emotions? Is it his powers? I don't get it. I don't get the concept. I just gave it a 1. I'm just so I don't have to give zeros across the board, probably, right? A little more than that. I'll just give it a 1. Oh man. Concept. Anyway, it's exhausting that, like, this book was like, man, why did I pick this book? I picked this book. It's my fault. This is my fault. All right. So we'll move ahead, and really, you're up again, brother. How did you feel about the concept of this book? Now, I know there's some good comics out there with really good concepts. Did this one hold up?
Enough for me to seriously want to see what happens in the next couple of issues if they were ever published. It could obviously, a point that several of y'all have made, or a couple of y'all have made, it needed an editor. It needed somebody that knew how a story flowed in comics, because the art was disjointed from panel to panel. The story skipped around, didn't quite explain itself. But overall, I want to find out if those aliens are responsible. I want to see what the next world is he jumps to, or find out if it is, like Roger said, if it's all just in his head. I like the concept of this book, so overall, I'm going to give it a 3.
Man,
short
you guys
and
are,
sweet.
yeah, that is short and sweet and generous.
I'm in a good mood.
You must be, man. Like, they got. Do they pay you? Do Malibu Comics pay you?
You know, I'm trying to think. Did Malibu publish Gobbledygook?
No,
That's the only Malibu comic I ever actually paid money for.
I doubt it. I bet you bought lots of them.
like Ultra Force and those guys, Malibu.
What about Spawn and Youngbloods and?
That's Image.
Oh yeah, but Image, when they first came out, they couldn't get a publisher license. So they got under Malibu Comics publishing license. So
That's
technically, all the original Image comics are Malibu Comics.
That's true. Before Marvel bought them out, that's true.
Bet you didn't know. Mr. 50 Years.
Burn them now. Burn them all.
I did not know that.
You always learn something new on Graders Notes.
This is true.
So, Medrog, have you got some follow-up to that 3? And please don't tell me it's a 4.
Okay. Well, let me first, I have another theory. I know why Kenny butted out. Okay? Because he has a certain reputation to keep, and I got a feeling he would trash this thing bad. So that's my concept grade for Kenny. That he hightailed it when he read this thing. No, I'm just kidding. You know, Kenny, he'd take anything head on. Dave, I'm with you, man. This is so hard to give a concept grade because, you know, it seems to me like there's 2 aspects here, right? Now, you have Koenig, which is a name out there, right? Not a comic book name, but he's been in conventions. You know, he's been in signings. He's a very popular pop culture figure, right? And I don't know if he came up with this concept or who, right? And then you have these artists, which were apparently not doing anything. And Malibu probably, you know, talked to him at a convention and said, hey, you know, have you ever thought about writing a comic book? And he's like, oh, yeah, I can do that. I've written, you know, screenplays and I've written this and that. And they contracted him and they found these guys who are middling artists at best and put them together and say, come up with a comic, come up with a story, come up with a character, or maybe they have the character, come up with a story. And we'll put it up and throw it against the wall, see if it sticks. It stuck, but much like, you know, things that come out of the bottom of people, you know, it really stinks. Again, just because you have a talent in one realm does not necessarily translate to another. And in this case, the concept may have had merit at some level, but they put the wrong artists on the wrong ideas and the wrong writer into the wrong character. And that, to me, blows the concept out of the water because you have all these disparate elements that don't fit. It's like you're trying, it's the old square peg in a round hole kind of thing. If this was a tighter concept and they had a more focused story and some kind of coherent ideal in the story, I like the political you know, ideology aspect. They could have expanded that. You know, maybe those cosmic beings are some kind of, you know, some kind of moralistic order of the universe. Well, explain that, you know, expand on that. Maybe this guy is like their, he is like their point man, you know, their troubleshooter. Great. But none of that comes through because it's so unclear and so vague and mushy. So it's hard to give a concept grade when I don't even know what the concept really is or was meant to be. I was going to give it a 1, Dave, but, you know, there are just there's just little inklings of the concept that I like. That I think that the emotional, if it's an emotional response that hits him into another reality, well, that's kind of interesting because now he has to avoid conflict to get into conflict, to not get into further conflict, and that he doesn't know his powers. Yeah, it's not the most original concept, but it's not the most used either. So very torn about this, but again, they really needed to do a better job of testing this out, or of having a much tighter editorial staff, and they had none of that. So I'll give it a 1.5 because I'm feeling Santa-like tonight, but it is tough to give this anything beyond a 1.
Oh, it's so tough. Like, like I said, I didn't get it. I just didn't get it. I'm gonna have words with my friend who recommended this.
I think you are right now.
Yeah, he's laughing his ass off. They fell for it. We're comic book cover. David, Genome, last but not least, sir, on concept. How did you feel this comic book fleshed out? You're, like I said, taking in all that 90s goodness that you know and love. Did this one hold up?
Now, one of you guys said this is a part 1 of 3. Is that true? Is this only a 3-issue mini?
Yeah, that's what it says in the interior. It says 1 of 3.
That would change things for me as far as the story grade goes, because if you only have a 3-part series, you need to get a little more in depth on what's going on with this character in the first one, because you can't expect to flesh all out in 2. I didn't realize it was only a 3-part. I thought maybe it's just going to be an ongoing series.
Does anybody know if they actually published 2 and 3?
I've seen when I looked at this one, I saw number 2. I don't know if I saw 3.
Yeah, I think I saw a cover for number 2, but I grade the concept a little bit differently than everyone else does, because I always think on the business side of things too, right? So let's take what this book tried to do in 1992. All right, let's start right with the cover. Foil. Was foil popular at the time? Yes, it was. It worked very well for Marvel. So they threw that on there. That's good marketing. We laugh about it now, but it sold books, right? So 2, you take a guy who is known in geek circles, Walter Koenig, right? Now, most people have never heard him speak. They don't know him. He is not the most exciting fellow. You know, he's intelligent, he's thoughtful, but you don't think of like fireworks and bombast when you think of him. That's kind of stuff you need for a comic book, right? But
he's also not Russian.
Yeah, and they took a well-known nerd pop culture guy and threw his name on a book. Smart business move, right? They put what I think is an interesting character and concept into what unfortunately became almost incomprehensible as a book as a whole. But there was that nugget of interest to be had there. So there's a lot of things going for this concept. It's just, this is one of those cases where it's not more like a product at some of its parts. It's just a product of parts, and they don't fit together too well. But I don't think the overall concept is bad on its own. They just messed up in some really basic things, like no editing staff, rewrites. The art was a little bit wonky, you know. It's just like it reeks of slapdash. Like, we need money infused in the company now. What can we do? Who will work cheap on the convention circuit, right? Who needs a paycheck? Who's got to pay rent? Okay, Walter does. All right, so let's see if he wants a writing credit. Let's go. I'm going to give this a 3, just because I think it checks a lot of the boxes. It doesn't make the book good, and obviously I don't think it was very successful if you're getting that thing in the dollar bin when cover price is $3, right? So if you just put your mind into the mindset they had at the time at Malibu, it was like, look, we need to do something to make money. How can this go wrong, right? Apparently it can go wrong, but I mean, that there were some things they did here where I think were smart. I think they should have got a better artist thrown on it. But, you know, all the good artists back then were snapped up, like all the big name artists, you know, because was Image around yet? Or they'd already opened shop, or they had made their exits? I can't remember. If not, Marvel and DC had everybody else, and Dark Horse had any of the stragglers out there. So it was kind of probably, they didn't have a lot, especially didn't have a ton of money to pay on the artists. I give it a 3. It's like, regardless of how the book was, they hit a lot of the financial points that they should have hit on this book as far as trying to make their money back. They went with what was popular. They tried something new with a well-known figure. to middling results. And so I give that a 3. Worst attempts. I just think he really used some work on the basics of making a comic book there. That's where I think it really failed. So I'll give it a 3.
Yeah, I don't know. 3. It's a couple 3s these guys. There's definitely a split on graders' notes over this book today.
That was my highest grade of the day, by the way.
So chat, how did you all feel about the concept? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Was it up your alley? Is this just way too out in left field for you? Please, submit a grade and let us tally her up.
This was tough to come up with a concept grade. To me, I mean, I know where you're coming from, Gino, and I looked at that. I looked at the Conid angle and how they thought that he would be one that could perhaps lead us, do a miniseries and then lead into something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I don't think that they didn't look at what he was capable of doing before they put this out. Or if they did, they were severely, severely wrong about it. So to me, that's why I gave the concept so low, because of the lack of foresight from the company to let this project go forward.
Yeah, it was just, I don't know. Like I said, I think someone got really excited. Hey, Candy said he'll work with us. And they got, all right, just throw it. Whatever he does, we'll take it and we'll print it. Just go with it. We got Walter. Oh my gosh, we got Walter, And yeah, you got to have checks and balances. And, I'm not knocking Walter. If there was one member of the cast I would like to go have coffee with, it would be him, because I think he's a very interesting person. I love the way he talks. He has this wry sense of humor, but he's very mellow. And I don't think you need to be very mellow as a comic book guy. You got to have fire in you at some point. Look at all the ones that made it big. Most of them are very passionate about it. And this is probably just another job for him. I don't know if it was a passion project,
Maybe he just, he thought he could do it and he just didn't have the idea of how to write a visual story, right? Like it's not the same as writing a short story.
No,
right? Like it's not even the same as writing a screenplay, right? Like you need to.
He's wrote a lot of screenplays, and the funny thing people don't understand about like television, for example, most of those are like 14 pages. They're not really long at all. So that's what this book reminds me of too, because it's just, like I said, it's just so disjointed and overly condensed for no apparent reason. I don't know. Make it a 5-part series.
But you have a director to fine-tune the scenes and the interactions. And here, there again, there was no filter for that. It's like raw. This is like raw footage going out there almost, and that's where it lost me.
And you have an editor at the end of your film to put all the scenes together in some sort of sense, right? Like, trust me, the editor makes the film in a big, big way. Right.
I really do like that idea of the bad guy and the hero being so perfectly diametrically even that like all you can do is keep escalating until the planet basically is destroyed. So you got to stop and talk and figure out some other way of defeating it. I thought that was kind of interesting. Kind of take on things too.
Yeah. Again, if they would have explored that angle, I thought that would be interesting. That they figured out that this is a stalemate, so they have to figure out another way of breaking that stalemate. That's a good micro concept, but again, that was one little nugget in a sea of coal. That was one little diamond in a sea of coal. That's where.
Take out 2 of these jumps and give me 2 pages that kind of explains the struggle. Why are these guys fighting? Like, just do something. Explain it. Give me these aliens in the background talking about a prophecy or whatever. Right, just something to fill me in a little bit, so I get it, so I'm interested. Right, but yeah.
What was that Star Trek episode? Something of Skelos, when they have the combatants on the planet, and you know the one I'm talking about. It's the brains underground who are just nothing but disembodied brains gambling.
Yes,
I bet 400 Quatus on this Kirk.
Of Skelos, I think.
Something like that. And this kind of reminded me, it's like what these cosmic beings are. Is that what they're doing with this guy? Is he like their avatar just for fun and games? I got a little bit of that vibe from it.
Somebody said that it's like various Star Trek episodes trying to get mushed into one comic.
Yeah, probably Roy Kirk. Yeah.
It's like a Star Trek clip show, like all these cats.
Check out the chat. Steven Spock is saying in the second issue he battles bacteria. In the third issue he's in Dachau.
Oh,
I'm reading those puppies.
wow, interesting.
Oh man, I might have.
this one.
No, I can't bring myself.
Yeah, I can't either. I barely survived this one, so I don't think I can. You know, it's like, you know, when you're a kid and you have that lantern and you touch it and you're, oh, it's hot.
Yeah.
The next lantern.
You know, the funny thing is I bought that Omni of Suicide Squad. I've never read past the first one. I just was so uninterested in the story, but I'd rather read the second part of this than I would of that, I guess.
Well,
Ron, Silver Age or 80s Suicide Squad?
The 80s.
80s, yeah. That was when we had. That's back when we had Gray Man.
Was that great? Yeah, that was great back then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't like
a
that.
while back.
Yeah.
All right,
But
so
at least it told the confident story.
Did you get the grade there, Gino?
It's a 1. It was a 1.5 and a 1, so I rounded.
Sounds about right. So all we have left is one last category, and that's our overall. So we'll start back at the beginning. Unruly, how did you feel about the overall of this book?
Overall, I'll slap it with a 2.5. I know that's lower than some of the scores I gave it, but that's still being generous. But I really do want to read issues 2 and 3 now.
You're so weird.
You're so weird.
Freely admitted.
We have you no other way, Unruly.
Moving along, Medarog, how did you feel was the overall of this book?
Dave, this creator's notes really got to me, and honestly, because I generally like comics of all types, right? I like to see there's generally a positive aspect in most everything I read. Some of them can be, you know, goofy. Sometimes the art can be wonky, but sometimes it's that, well, Genome knows this, right? Some movies are bad, but they're so bad they're good to watch. You know, they have elements to them that make them entertaining. This did not have any of that to me. This was, to me, I wished I never had to read this comic. Okay, that I can tell you maybe there's 2 or 3 other comics that I've ever read that I can say that about. Okay, because it's just so confusing. I wanted to like it. I wanted to give it a chance. When I read it the first time, I read it without any kind of grader's notes mentality. I just wanted to soak it in, to like it. No way, I couldn't. I tried. It's almost like you're trying to force down a food that you think that makes you nauseous. You know, it just doesn't work. So the cover, again, okay, nothing terrible about it. 2, you know, the story, a total mess. Incomprehensible, disjointed, very strange and kind of odd phraseology and dialogue. But again, the whole concept was so wonky that kind of fits. The art was, again, okay. I mean, the monsters were so good. I think that kind of like really distracted me because I just love those monsters. I wish I could have posters of those on my wall. They were so good. He spent all his time on that, though, and the inker, I mean, the man has, you know, those slap brushes, you know, with the black ink, because they were just everywhere. Everything was like inside of some kind of black light studio. It was just wildly weird and inappropriate art for the outdoors scenes. And I already talked about the concept a second ago. Just, you know, you had Koenig, he was there, he's a name. We got these characters, we got this artist. Let's see if, you know, let's throw it all together, throw it on the wall, see if it sticks. It stuck, but it stunk. So overall, it's not a 1 because there are just these little parts of it that I can't get out of my mind. The monsters, the little political diatribe, the way that the power structure works, but it's also confusing. And so just to me, it was just a chore to read this. I couldn't wait till it was over. Overall, 1.5 is what I give it, which I think is my lowest score ever.
I think that's your lowest score ever. You do like comics. You're usually pretty generous with your scores. You're definitely more generous than I am. I almost thought you were going to give it a lower score than me for the first time ever.
I try to be as honest as I can. You know what I mean? So,
Wayne, you were 2.5, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wayne was 2.5.
Make sure I had it written down right.
Dave, we know you're weird, so you go ahead and tell us what your overall was. Well,
my overall wound up being a 2.5 aggregate or mean, excuse me. I'm gonna give it a 2 though. I'm actually gonna lower the score of that math told me to give it. This like we kind of mentioned this earlier in the chat. You know, some books are the sum of their parts. This book is just parts. It's like it's such a delineation here between every portion of this book, and none of it gels. So I just give it a few good points on a few of the good parts on there. But as an overall book, it doesn't work. Now, whether that gets better in a 3-part series, I don't know. But if it is only a 3-parter, they sure didn't open it right. Cover, I gave it a 2. There's some decent points about it. It's nothing great. And I don't mind the foil. Like I said, 90s, whatever. It's at least an appropriate use of the foil. It's not quite so gaudy as some of the other ones got. Interior art also gave it a 2. Nondescript. Some parts were decent. Monster fights were pretty awesome. Like that Transformers battle looked awesome when they were blasting each other to pieces. That looked really good. But most of it was pretty nondescript and a little bit weak. Like you said, heavy-handed inking. We're not even talking Coletta levels here, because he's the one that erased all the backgrounds. But
he erased. He didn't do that dark. Yeah.
So I gave that a 2. The story, I gave it a 2.5. I did find a couple interesting things going on there, and that's where most of the good nuggets of this book come from. Most of the panel doesn't agree with me on that, but I do. I do have some interest in this character, not him as a person, but just what is he and what's going on with him, and if someone pulling his strings. Interesting. Concept is my highest score. I gave it a 3. You take a big nerd name, you put a foil cover on there, basically throw the 90s tropes at a book and see what happens. Only thing they missed out was having a high-end artist work on it and an editor actually hired for the job. So overall, I give it a 2. It's not a book I really want to read again. I'm just kind of curious what happens to the character afterwards, and it definitely deserves its place on dollar bins, I think. But just gel together. I wanted this book to be better than it was, because after reading it, it's like, this could have been really good. This really could have been good and interesting. But unfortunately, we're not, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get the other 2 to find out. So 2, little below serviceable.
A little below serviceable, I'd say. Oh, man. For me, overall, I mean, fuck. This book, is why 90s comics crashed. I mean, not particularly this book. Books just like this, where they got some name, Star Trek guy, Walter Koenig, we're going to get him, write a comic book, and then we'll put a foil cover on it, and we'll sell it for fucking $2.95, right? Like, that's in 1993, right? Like, that's double the price of what a Marvel comic was at the time.
That was money. That was money back then, yeah. Yeah,
right? Like, I mean, that's the price of a comic book now. Oh, maybe a little cheaper, but it's pretty close. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like I said, this comic really epitomizes to me everything bad that happened that caused the comic book crash in the 1990s. That caused a ton of comic book shops to close. That caused a ton of people to dump their comic book collections on the market, give up in frustration because of the devalue of it all. And it came down to comic book companies putting out like unedited, unconceptualized, poorly written stories that were trying to be, they were just there to sell a comic book based on a name. Walter Koenig. Oh, I remember him. He was Chekhov. Right? I wonder if he can write a comic book. Oh, no, he can't. Right? Like, so grab a couple, up and coming artists that you hope are upper-comers that you can pay, scale to and get a book written, because you're gonna, they dropped all their dollars on this book on, paying Walter his writer's fee, right? And getting that fine cover. Ooh, the foil. Right. I don't know if the foil variant was more expensive, if that's why this is $2.95 or not, maybe. But so for overall, just because I hated it so much. I hated it so much. It was awful. It was a chore, Metarog. You hit it right on the head when you said that. It was like, okay, I got to read this again. Damn it, right? Like, overall, I gave it a 0. Don't buy this book. Don't do it. It's
Wow.
less as a whole than it is as the sum of its parts, as it were. So, goose egg. What did I give it? Like overall, out of a possible 25, I gave it a 3. Oh,
Doing all
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Finally, my pick isn't the lowest. Yes.
Yes. No, this one took the cake, man. I would gladly read Aliens versus. I'd rather be trapped on a desert island with only aliens versus Predator than have this and unlimited turkey sandwiches.
Wow.
I would still pick it. Oh no, not that book. No. I swear this book, it goes into my special box. I have a special box when little kids come and say, "Oh, you have some comics for me to read?" Sure, I do.
Here you go.
As kids, you want to leave. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to scar the future generations with that comic book, Dave?
I'll be like,
That's the way to nurture the next generation of readers.
That's you go.
be like, oh, I don't really like this, my friend's kid here, so he gets Raver. He will come back asking for comics.
I can't wait to hear, Dave, if you can, in 2 weeks, the conversation between your friend and yourself about the comic book.
Record it. I'll put it on my channel.
Find out what he says about it. I am dying.
Well, I'll give him a call. I'm going to be like, what the hell, man? Come on, Mike. Really?
I just wish McFarlane would have drawn it. Then he'd have lit the thing on fire after the show was over. So
I should have known. My friend's a joker. I should have known. Like,
do you have the final grade for the illustrious chat?
It is a 1.5. Lines up with you, my friend. In fact, I think you got most of the. Yeah. In fact, you're rolling off by 0.5 tonight, so you are the winner. Enjoy that chicken dinner on the nuclear vessel.
After reading this, this tells you how much we love this program. I had to read this thing twice. Okay, once to just entertain or ostensibly entertain myself, and once to take notes. Okay, so I read this twice for you guys here in the chat and you guys in the panel, and that, let me tell you, I should get paid for that second time.
I know, me too, because I didn't know what I was like. I must have like zoned out and missed something. Like I don't get it, right? So I had to go back and read it again and be like, nope, it wasn't me that missed it. It was them.
And by the way, Roger, I have to let you know you weren't the only one that used to scratch up food. We used to call it gruel, but a good buddy of mine, we go over there. His specialty was making rice, and he put water in there, make it like a soup, and then put mustard in the water and stir it all up. And we used to eat that all the time, man, just for something to actually fill our stomachs. But I'm kind of with Wayne on this book. I mean,
I'll tell you that.
That's random.
There's just a little bit. There's just a little something there I want to see nurtured. There's a little seedling I'd like to see sprout and leave the hummus that it's growing in right now. I have hope for it.
More
hope springs eternal.
Right?
Bacteria, Dachau.
We'll just get a synopsis from you later, unreally. You can fill us in. It totally makes sense. It was the greatest story ever. Yeah, right. No, you have to read those last 3 panels. You have to keep reading all the way to the end. Suckers.
Oh boy. Well, you want us to tell the chat what we're up to next fortnight?
Yes, sir. So in 2 weeks' time, Comic Head 84, usually one of our Graders Notes panel members, he got a little busy with work and had to opt out today. Thanks, Wayne, for coming and filling in for us. We certainly appreciate your pinch hitting all the time for us. But it is 84's pick, and he picked a good one, and that would be Silver Surfer number 18. Rug, you got a copy there?
14.
Oh, 14, sorry. Silver Surfer number 14.
Yeah. This is the Fantasy Masterpieces reprint, but there is also a facsimile reprint. So if you don't have the original, you have options. Okay. And I think this is Lee Buscema. Lee on the story, Buscema on the art. So I got a feeling the grades are going to be quite different on this.
Yeah.
I just got that, I have a prophetic vision that it's going to be a little bit different.
Have we ever done a Buscema book?
Big John?
Yeah.
Or are we talking
John?
Sal?
No, I don't think we've done a Sal Buscema either.
We did John Buscema. That was the Conan 101.
Oh, yeah, the Conan. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, right here. Stan Lee, John Buscema, right there.
Oh, but this is like...
Look at that opening panel.
Greatest work.
Yeah.
I gotta have a hard time. John Buscema is pretty much my favorite Bronze Age artist, right? And probably my second favorite artist of all time. So
I've heard of worse picks.
Just give it a 5 all the way down, and I'll see you guys in a month.
Well, we know from my past scores that I don't cut Legends any slack if they put out a bad product like that.
Remember when we did the Kirby? Remember when we did the Kirby and Machine Man?
I destroyed him. I destroyed, what was it, Ditko we did in that one you had 2 days ago, or Time Warp? Was it
Time
Ditko
Warp?
that was in that one?
Well, Time Warp had an ensemble of artists.
Yeah, he did a couple of them, and he had the worst I thought in there, so I don't cut him slack just because they're legends.
Yeah. Biggie, I don't know if Biggie has forgiven me for that one yet.
John Buscema, on his very worst day when he's got pink eye, can draw better than this guy.
That's a damn truth there.
Wow. Yeah, I got a feeling it's going to be a very different vibe on that Graders Notes. In 2 weeks, Comic channel.
We're going to learn how to grade the Buscema way. Yep.
Right. All right. So let's do a quick round of goodbyes. Unruly, you got anything coming up on your channel? Do you have a channel?
Well, the occasional haul video. That's about it.
Yeah, but they're good haul videos. I mean, you don't just... I hate the guy...
entry. I'm getting in on Dean's contest, the 5 covers.
Oh, yeah. Doing the D-Ronk. Yeah, D-Ronk's having a contest, too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's some good haul videos and there's bad haul videos. I don't like the guys that just... These are the 600 books I bought this weekend. And, these are the 600 books I bought last weekend. Holy crap.
I'd rather read this book again. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, moving along. Genome, anything special coming up on your channel, sir? I know you put out a fair amount of content, and anybody who hasn't subscribed to you is a fool, because you do have really, really great reviews out there. And I'm hoping that you have some exciting news for us today.
Possibly. I got my next horror series picked out to review. It's going to be the Romero Living Dead series. So expect those to come up in a couple weeks. Before that, I have to review this one for Master Blaster. This was his review. I have to do Tron. So that'll be coming out probably next week or so. It's gonna
Original Tron?
Original Tron. So
nice.
So I actually hadn't watched this since the 80s, so it was kind of fun to get back to it again and try to look at it with an impartial eye. So that's coming up here in the near future. What else exciting? I had some other stuff going on. I don't know. Maybe I'll film myself installing lights in my garage. I never know what I'm going to tape. I should have done the toilet when I was doing that and fixing that. I should have taken a video for my how-to series. Please
don't put videos like that.
I am.
I don't need to see your toilet.
No. But might be. I thought about tinkering with the idea of doing a live stream of an oil painting I'm going to get ready to do. I don't know yet. I got to get the garage cleaned up and get a studio set up in there.
That's a good idea.
So I may do that.
Nice.
If anybody out there doesn't realize that, Dave is getting quite good at landscape painting. I was actually quite impressed when I saw a few of your paintings, sir.
Oh, thank you, sir.
So I would like to see you go ahead and do one.
All right. But other than that, just more review.
Perfect. Like I said, people should subscribe because you put out a fair amount of content and some really well thought out and not just fluff content.
I'm over 500 videos now. I just realized that today.
That's nice, man.
Good God, what am I doing to myself?
I know.
Wow.
Medrog, how about you, sir?
Yep.
Excuse me.
I'm doing the cover of the week too, Genome, because I love to hear your take on those covers. They're almost like they give me like almost a little portent of Grader's notes here.
This was this week's selection, by the way. This was this week's comic cover of the week, so classic stuff there.
Yeah, pretty good. My channel, well, like Unruly, I am working on my D-Runk support video. I already have a Secret Wars 8 that I bought off the rack, so I'm going to do a little kind of contest for my prize tag just to make it a little interesting. And that should be coming out this weekend. I just did the roundup today. You know, if you're interested in supporting other contests around the YouTubes, watching there's a bunch of new ones there. And on Tuesday, I'm going to do my second part of, I did my complete Astonishing Tales run, and then I'm segueing that into all the appearances of Deathlock in the Bronze Age. So I'm going to bring that out on Tuesday.
Go Plunderer, best villain ever. Sorry.
Plunderer.
Well, the Plunderer fan club president is sitting to my right over here. And there's no other members except for the president. So that's what I got going on. And then, of course, we have as usual, every Thursday roundup again. If anybody knows of any contests, hit me up on IG at Metarog1 because I don't like to miss anybody. So if you run across one, feel free. Just throw it in there, throw a link. I'll take care of it.
And, I recommend that video too, because there's some really generous YouTubers out there that give away some great stuff, right? And you don't have to go around and find them everywhere. You can just go right on to Metarog's channel every week. He's got the big roundup. He'll tell you who's doing what, what they want, what countries are allowed, what kind of, if they're causing shipping or whatever it is. But, it's really well done, Roger. I always have appreciated that video for sure.
It's my pleasure. And I have the links. I even have the links to the channel, so you don't have to go looking for it. You just hit the link, and boom, you're there.
And, I've entered contests and won free comics. It's free comics, right? And you go out and you also get to support someone else's channel, which is always great too, right? Yeah. So I guess it's down to me. I, of course, put out an undervalued video last week. It's been quite a good one. A lot of people seem to like it. Got another one coming up here right away. I will also be on Matt, the Boy Who Had Seven's channel on Monday. It'll be me, Bonafide Comics, Geeks and Drinks, John's Comics with Kids, the Boy Who Had Seven, and the Geek Aficionado. And we're gonna do like a game show kind of thing, concept that he's got going, where we
Comic-Gories.
That's it. Thank you for I think you were in the chat last weekend too. I was watching and ended up Matt needed another player and got in there. So that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that on Monday. And more undervalued videos coming up, right?
Love them.
I bet Raver's gonna be on the next one. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that'll be in my overvalued videos.
Valued in the dollar bin.
This book cost me $1 overvalued.
Overvalued, yeah.
The comic book owner should have paid me, or the comic book shop owner should have paid me $1 to take it.
He probably on the phone, like he's posting up on Instagram as soon as you left out of there. It's like, you're not gonna believe who just bought this crap.
I'm sure, like the guys that we bought our books, I bought mine off eBay.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I sold this. I never thought I would sell this. Who bought this? What, are they crazy?
I lost that bet.
I'm like, yeah, he lost. Honey, you won. Someone bought that comic.
You're never going to sell that comic. Oh, yeah, want to bet? Hey, some sucker in Canada bought it.
I knew I invested in all those foil covers in the 90s for a reason.
They paid off 20 years later.
It'll be the hot book. It should be the hot book. There's a 2,000 increase in sales. Just the 4 of us buying one.
It's true. We've got the speculators talking amongst themselves already. So what are we missing? Is there a movie coming out? Yeah.
I should put up a fake one, see if we could get the price of this book up. So my speculation has any influence. Anyways, guys,
yeah, I
we better end it there. This has been a great show. Can't thank you guys enough for always coming on here and being like, I know we all make fun of each other and stuff, and you're always such good sports about it. And you're always so smart about your reviews and everything. So I've really appreciated the show. I had a lot of fun with you guys today. Thanks everybody in the chat for joining us and for giving us your grades. And we always appreciate you watching. And just remember, Wednesdays are new comic book days, but every day is old comic book day. All right. So we'll see you in 2 weeks on Kenny84's channel, Comic Cat 84. And we will be doing Silver Surfer number 14. See you in 2 weeks, guys.